Let's also take a look here in this quick little video. We'll probably take a look at a very important assessment. We are left with the last few days for preparation, right? Last few days for preparation. One of the most important things that you want to notice or keep in mind while you're preparing is that you might be taking some mocks, you might be revising your mocks, right? So in those things, you'll realize that there are so many things that you don't know. Every single test that you take, you have at least 30, 35, 40 questions that we have no idea about, right? We had to sort of use like some sort of logic or reasoning or even like gut instincts to go ahead and try to solve those, right? But keep this in mind. Okay, with approximately 50% that is required, approximately 50% that is required for for the cutoff for your general category, you have your 100 questions, right? With 100 questions, you will notice that a lot of the breakup is basically all about 6 subjects in your GS plus current affairs. That's it. Okay, you have your, and I'll read this out: history, geography, polity, economics, science and tech and environment, and then current affairs. That's all there is to it. Okay, now while you might think that there are so many different things that we don't know, right? You just have to keep in mind that they are going to give you questions in history. Okay, and within history, you're going to have questions in your ancient and medieval and culture and modern history, right? Modern India. In geography, you know that there will be some questions on physical geography or and things and so on and so forth. You know for sure that there will be questions in polity, right? And what is the major source? You know, your D.D. Basu, your Lakshmikant, depending upon which source you follow, right? Based on that and application therein, you will find these questions. Economics, for sure, you know that there are 15 questions. Science and tech, you know that 12 questions. Environment, you will have some questions. So if you look at these patterns, and this is so this is an analysis provided by an institute. I think I've taken this from Career Launcher, right? So that's where I borrowed this. But we can do this assignment as well. You know, in some you will notice that excuse me, current affairs, some would probably keep this, let's say some would classify this as an environment, some would classify this as current affairs. So you know the numbers would vary a little bit, but overall this is what happens. So again, just to keep this in mind, you approximately have 15 to 20 questions in any given section, along with so you want to think of it as 12 to 20 or something like this, right? So that is that. Now, if you want to see which ones are more important, if you take the average of the last 5 years or whether you take the last 3 years, let's analyze this. So history had the highest, right? Because history is also it's the longest, in my opinion, right? You have your modern history, which is kind of bulky. You have your ancient, you have your medieval, you have your culture. So it is a large chunk, right? And it has got some 19 questions on average in the last 5 years, or approximately 37 marks. So that becomes a big chunk, right? Current affairs is also a huge chunk. Now the current affairs levels are increasing. Okay, so you understand current affairs is an area that we want to focus a lot on, right? You may have done your newspaper, you may have your newspaper, you must have cut out things from your newspaper, you may have like written some things from your diary, you may have done compilations of some of the institute's current affairs, like Vision Monthly or PT365 or any other sort of institute that you've been following. So that is another one. So you want to ensure that you consolidate those along with the current affairs that you have learned from some of the mock tests that you have taken. So you've got to be thorough with it. You also take a look at polity. See, polity is also an important chunk. Economics is an important chunk. Environment is an important chunk. Then you have geography and SNT. Now, what do you do? How does this necessarily help you? How this helps you is to necessarily tell you that even if you can solve like half, okay, in the areas that you're strong, you can probably solve more than half. Okay, net, your score should be like more than 50% for those. In some of your weaker areas, it is okay if you can take a little bit of a beating. Nobody is going to be good at all of these subjects. Okay, and I'm sure that you understand that, right? So as we study more and more, we'll also realize that there are more and more things that we are not aware of, and UPSC will find a way to ask us those questions that we are not necessarily as strong in. Right now, see, also it doesn't mean that history is going to, just because history has a more number of marks, it doesn't mean that you focus primarily there. You focus on your strengths and ensure that your weakness, ensure that whatever you can sort of like look back and remember and recall and consolidate, that will be great. Because see, history, while it is 19 questions, doesn't mean that we'll be able to solve all the questions. Okay, whether you have done your Spectrum, whether you have done your Bipin Chandra, the big fat book, okay, or the NCERT book, or if you've done, what is that, Grover, right? So any of these books that you've done, even despite that, there will be questions in modern that you are not going to know, I'm not going to know, right? It is going to be that way. Okay, same thing, ancient and medieval, let's say ancient, medieval, and culture, they have three some questions like this. Okay, maybe you'll have couple of questions in ancient that you could possibly do, maybe like 1 or 2 questions again in medieval. At the same time in culture, 1 or 2 questions that you may not be able to, but instead maybe there will be easier questions in science and technology or environment, depending upon your strength. Okay, maybe there are easier questions in polity, so you focus on those areas in which you can get the easiest 50% or more. right? So that should be the main idea. And also, if you notice this year, the priority for the last 3 years, because the last 3-year pattern, the questions have been slightly a little more analytical, a lot more sort of requiring you to think a little more, right? But the weightage has been more or less the same. 19 here, 17, but instead 18. Pretty much the weightage has been the same. Okay, so depending upon your strength and weakness, you find out what exactly is your strength, what exactly are going to be the easiest 50% that is required for you to clear. Okay, 50 and plus. Okay, so doesn't mean that you should get only 100. Anything more than that also will give you a little bit of a cushion. Okay, so I hope this analysis also helps. So in the last 5 days, whether it is like 10 days, 8 days, 7 days, 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, remember, okay, 100, even if it is 100 questions, and it can be anything under the sun, but primarily it is like either history or polity or economics or environment or geography or science and tech or current affairs. 6 subjects plus current affairs. And I think this really helps you give that idea that you know all of these subjects. Okay, you know a little bit about all of these subjects. Even if you can get half net right in each of these things, you are still going to clear this exam, right? So it doesn't mean that polity means every single polity questions have to be solved. Now, I always mention this thing. Generally the pattern will be some 20-25% questions will be very easy. There'll be some 50% questions that are relatively moderate. You just have to apply your basic foundation knowledge that you have, and you will be able to get the answers somehow. You will be able to reach there. Maybe one option you don't know, but you might be able to sort of utilize your not exactly like tricks, but what I mean is that you can use your knowledge and try to use your logic or reasoning, okay, or your gut instincts, and you might be able to reach the answer. And there might be some questions, okay, 20-25% questions are very, very difficult to solve. It is the more important thing is within those 2 hours to decide which are the questions that are probably going to give us the easiest of marks and focus there. Okay, which are the questions that are probably, ask yourself this question. Here is a question. Okay, are my chances of basically solving that going to be closer to, am I going to be able to solve it? Is that the likelihood, or is it something that can go wrong? Okay, if it more so is, I think I can get it right, go ahead with those things. Okay, but you have those questions where the question you're not very sure what exactly it's asking, and or it could be both the options or 2, 3, 4 options that you're not very sure. Okay, those kind of questions you could possibly avoid. Now it is really up to you. You should have that idea. Am I going to choose to attempt it in if I know if I can get it to 50-50, if I can eliminate 2 options, exactly how do you go about doing this? We'll talk more about those things, because that is also a very important sort of an aspect. But again, in the last few days, just focus here. Okay, just remember all of these subjects, anything under the sun, but still it is just history and geography and polity and current affairs and so on and so forth. And every one of these subjects, you have enough knowledge that at least you can score 50 to 60%. Okay, so I hope that helps. And yeah, I hope that helps. Great.